Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Zeldin. I'm the director of APAC for Luidia, the makers of eBeam. First of all, it's great to be here. Lost my notes. It's black. But first thing, before we get it back up here, I just want to say it's great to be here in Gujarat. The last time I was in Ahmedabad was 20 years ago, and I must say that I don't recognize the place. So things here have really changed. Okay, here we go. So it's great to be here, and here we go. First of all, as I stated, I'm the director for APAC for eBeam. I've also been, in the distant past, I've been a teacher, I've been a group leader, been involved a lot in what we call, in North America, what we call informal education. So I'm actually going to pepper and touch upon that a little bit throughout. We'll touch a little bit on the technologies that eBeam is using, but the main focus is just going to be technology in education and how to use it and when to use it and why to use it. So basically, we all know the technology exists. It's not if we're going to be using and implementing technology in education. The real question is how. A lot of the kids or the students that are out there, they're more tech savvy than we are. They're more comfortable with an iPad than many of us. So the issue of them, you know, when the question used to be asked, okay, how are the kids going to accept it? That's not really the question anymore. A lot of times the question is, how are the teachers or how are the educators going to accept it, and less so the actual students. So one of the things I think is important is actually using technology not for technology's sake. Okay, there's a lot of technology out there, there's a lot of technology for education. The idea really shouldn't be to just push it in there because we have it, but use it when it makes sense. So for example, when I was working in another life, and I was working with an early childhood company, and they had a little box with arrows to teach the directions, and people said, okay, but what about, you know, why not the mouse? And no one really thought about this before, but basically they said, okay, but when you move, you're trying to teach a child left, right, up, down, north, south, east, west, okay? But on a mouse, when you have to go left, a lot of times you actually have to go right in order to go back left. This is very confusing to the child and can actually have a detrimental effect on the education. So we have to be smart about what education we're actually using where. So there are already a lot of best teaching practices in place, and I'm not going to go over them, and a lot of practices and theories in place, but we should be using the technology to actually support these. So for example, using a video or using audio to stress a point or bring about a point that would take us a lot more time to read a book or to explain it, when in a 3-minute video I can actually get the point across. And I've always respected professors and teachers who knew how and when to use the media correctly. A lot of times people are thinking, oh, this is their way to get out of teaching or not to have to stand in front of the classroom. No. It actually can be so much more effective to use a lot of these technologies if we're doing them correctly. Obvious things like self-paced learning, computers and technology is great. And even something as simple as grading multiple choice tests. Why should a teacher sit when a computer can do it in a fraction of the time, and gives the teacher the opportunity to do what he or she should be doing, and that is being creative, creating lesson plans and doing the actual teaching. So don't use it just to use it. There's a time and a place for video, for an internet search, for science labs and simulation. So here's a great example where we have a lot of computer software out there that does simulation. But every once in a while, yes, the students should get their hands dirty. They should actually do an actual experiment and not just do everything virtually. But obviously the simulations save us a lot of money and a lot of time, and they're safe and they have so many advantages. So there has to be a smart mix about how to do that. So obviously it's an additional tool. Technology is out there, it's an additional tool. It's not really a replacement for everything, and the attitude should always be, okay, I've got this gadget, I've got this thing, how is the best way to be implementing it? I mentioned briefly that I have a background in informal education, which I don't know how popular that is here in India. What I'm talking about are things like scouting, youth groups, we have summer camps or summer schools and things like that. Now, the issue in all these situations that I just mentioned are, as opposed to school, the kids and the students don't have to be there. More or less, they're there by choice. And once you have that situation, it's actually much more difficult for the counselor or for the teacher or for the leader to keep the kids engaged and keep them involved. And you have to be a lot more creative in a lot of situations. So at one of the summer camps that I used to be involved with, I was just at a meeting because my daughter's going to be going. And one of the people mentioned, and they have, it's an educational camp, and they have classes and things like this outside, and it's very informal, but very informal setting. And one of the things that one of the teachers does there is they take a popular TV show. I don't know if you have this here. It's called Modern Family, but it's a popular TV show. And what they do is they'll show a little segment and then have a discussion with the kids about ethics, about about different issues. Now, this is teaching the kids how to express themselves, how to think, how to make a point, how to discuss, how to argue. So all of these things are very valuable, and a little bit of technology is used in a creative way to get that done. So it's very important, to be creative. Now, another thing, social media, it's out there. The kids, are almost all on Facebook, So I know that in some countries or in some places, they do a separation. The school has nothing to do with it. What happens on Facebook stays on Facebook. And like any other technology or any other thing, it can be used for bad things or in a negative way, and it can be used for some of the most amazing positive things. And I can give many examples, which I won't do to my 5-minute time limit. So one of the things, though, in Facebook, it can be used for teasing, bullying, wasting time, playing tricks, or on the flip side, it can be incorporated in the classroom. It can be used you have a class discussion and tell the kids to continue the discussion on a Facebook forum and talk to each other. That's a positive way to take technology that the kids are already using and they like and they've embraced, and allowing them to use it for education. So a couple last points is using technology to deviate from a lesson plan. This might sound funny, but in the case, for example, of our product, eBeam, which, by the way, also welcome to our booth for further discussions in general or on the product. eBeam is an interactive whiteboard, and kids often bring up, in class, unrelated or slightly related topics to something, In this particular case, you're able to bring up things from the internet or other contents and just show it and move the topic to something that was somewhat related to what was being discussed, but because another child brought it up, the kids are more engaged and they become involved in it. So technologies can be used for all of these better teaching practices. We should be using them to build on the already established. We're not reinventing the wheel. And a couple other ideas, teachers and students creating a video on a topic together is such a very effective way for the students to get involved and become into the topic that's being discussed. And the same goes for maybe making a website on a certain subject and doing that together as a project, or breaking up in groups and doing that. So basically the message is, we have a lot of technology out there. It shouldn't just be thrown in and forced upon anybody. It should be used smartly and in an intelligent way to really build up on the practices that we already know. We already know what works. We should use the technology to help us do that. So again, any questions or further discussion afterwards, the eBeam booth, and thank you very much.